Hello and welcome to another episode of DTIYDK. Don't talk if you don't know. I am Bryce. I will be your host for this afternoon / evening / morning, depending on where you are joining us from. This is my first time hosting this podcast, and I have some truly gigantic shoes to fill. That Frodan guy is casting worlds and has bad internet. I am joined by my inaugural appearance co-host, Aesah. How you doing today, buddy? That is the single best value we can add to your life right now. If you're going to be hanging out listening to us for 2 hours, do not let the queue go from for free to, hours of wait time. So might as well get on and have your place held. We are also joined by Holi, our first guest of the show. Holi, how you doing today?
Doing great. No time for PBE, but I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I feel sorry for you because you have to continue to play set 7 while the rest of us get to play set 8. But, getting a chance to compete in the Dragonlands Championship is a nice consolation prize, I guess, as far as these things.
Definitely makes it worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the format of the show is going to be very different than any of the other shows. So if you've watched, can't hear Aesah. Oh, no.
Hello?
Oh, no.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh.
Why can they not hear you?
That's weird.
Gangly? Any notes?
I feel like this happened last time I was watching Don't Talk Eagle, though.
Wait. We can hear him now. It's lit. We did it. We're the greatest. Okay, wait. Can you hear him? Can you hear him now that we're on the other scene? Desynced?
Hello?
There's some weird sound here and there. Can't hear. Okay, can you hear Aesah? Aesah, say something smart.
Hello. Please make sure you log on to the PBE and get your queue started if you want to play sometime today.
It was better when he was muted. Go ahead. Can hear. All right, so showtime is okay. It sounds like we're good. We're gonna keep marching forward in the hopes. Okay, I think that back to where we were talking about Holi being on the show. We're talking about different format for the show. The show is going to be way different than if you've ever watched one of these episodes before. We're going to have a series of guests, one representing each of all of the regions actually at Worlds. So we're going to talk about the players that qualified from the region, their strengths, their weaknesses, the region as a whole, and kind of prospects and storylines. Looking forward to the Dragonland Championship. So, Holi, having you is super fun. Actually, we're guessing the show that's competing in the Dragonlands Championship. So, talk a little bit about who you are and your journey to get there.
So I've been playing TFT since set 1, since it first came out of beta, and I don't know. I fell in love with it right away, and I didn't really start competing until set 3, but. Yeah, I put a lot of time into the game, and I got Challenger Rank 1 in Japan in set 1, and then I got it again in set 3.5, and then haven't got it since then, but I've been ranked 2 several times. But yeah, I haven't really done well in many of the qualifiers. This is the first time I actually showed up to compete and made it to the final day, and mine wasn't as clean as titles, but yeah, I'm looking forward to competing at Worlds, and hopefully I can make it to day 3.
Yeah,
I love how this guy said he was Challenger Rank 1 in set 1, but didn't start competing until set 3.
I mean, the ladder is not a tournament, Aesah. I don't know if you've ever heard this argument before, but...
Oh, wait, what?
Huh? Okay, so Holi, one thing that people don't know about you, or as much, it was something that Panda got into in his Reddit post from the other day, is that you have a very different profile than most of the competitors in the World Championship, right? You're a little bit on the older side. You're probably the only father in the field. Is that right? I can't confirm that, but it would not surprise me if that were true. Can you talk a little bit about how kind of your personal story and how it all weaves into your TFT?
Yeah, I am a father. I have 2 kids, a 2-year-old boy and a 10-month-old boy, and I have a little girl that's going to be born in February. So
Congrats, man.
Thank you. We're really busy at my house. But yeah, I came to Japan back in 2017 to study. I was in college. I met my wife while I was in college, and when I graduated, we actually had our first kid right before I graduated. So it was a very busy final year. And then since then, I've mostly been a stay-at-home dad due to like Corona being crazy, and played a lot of TFT and hung out with the kids. So it's been really relaxed at our place.
Man. Did your wife and kids play TFT?
I tried to get my wife to play TFT. She is more of an Animal Crossing kind of person, so it didn't work out.
This is deeply relatable. I plus one for me across the board, except for I did not try to get my wife to play TFT. So your region is only 2 players. It's yourself and Title.
Yeah.
I think is it fair to characterize you as kind of the underdog from the region and Title as the favorite from the region?
Definitely. As an English speaker, like primarily English speaker, and being an older guy with less connections, like in general, to a lot of the Japanese players, I've been kind of an outsider. I've always competed on the ladder, but I don't really have too many close ties with a lot of people in JP. So definitely, I would assume going into Worlds that most of Japan is going to be rooting for Title more so than me, and it's justified. Title is very good. He qualified in set 6, and he's always like rank 1, rank 2 on ladder, and in NA the last couple of weeks, I think he got up to like rank 2 or something. He got really close to rank 1. He was at like 1600 LP. Anyway, he's insane. So look out for him at Worlds.
I think the big question I have, about Title is how good is he? It's really hard sometimes for folks that are in the quote unquote major regions. Like you can't keep up with everyone. And so we hear the different players that are like, okay, if there's anyone you should be afraid of from this region, it's this person. And it feels like Title's that name. Obviously didn't do very well at the championship for set 6. Hard to, small sample size, tournament nerves, just getting more dogged. It's really hard to control for that. How good do you think Title is? Do you think he stacks up to kind of the top tier players on the world stage?
Yeah, I think he's as good as any of the Chinese guys, and I think we can all agree that the Chinese players definitely have a leg up in terms of preparation, just because of their server is so much larger and they play against the best of the best. And if we've got if we've got a Soju in a KC double, and they've got like 3 or 4, because it's just population diff. And I really think Title is just one of those special players that he's one in a million, and he could definitely compete. I could see him winning Worlds.
You mentioned being like as good as China. Do you guys prep by watching other regions such as China?
Yeah, I watched pretty much all the regionals. I think the only one I didn't catch was OCE. Sorry, guys. And
shots fired.
But yeah, I know I watch them. I think there are a couple Japanese guys that do co-streams, and there's definitely a few guys that post up on Twitter. That's where we get most of our info in Japan. It's just people copy pasting stuff into Twitter and on blogs and stuff. It's really old school. But yeah, I'd say that there's a special relationship between Japan and China, especially because there's a lot of Chinese players in Japan, and some of our top challengers are Chinese, so they play on both the Chinese servers and on Japan. So I'd say that a lot of like meta shifts come to Japan very quickly, and most of the top challengers get that info before I do, because I don't speak Chinese at all. So I definitely am on the receiving end on a lot of those meta shifts.
Interesting. Okay, I want to shift gears. There's a few questions we're going to ask everyone today on the show, so we can kind of have some interesting points of comparison across all of the different reps from the regions. So the first thing we're going to have you do is we're going to have you rank the regions in order of perceived skill. So this is, starting with the region that you think is the best, all the way down to the region that you think is the weakest. I can list them out for you. I don't know if you have them handy. But the regions are NA, OCE, Korea, Japan, China, LATAM, EMEA, and Brazil.
Okay. So I'm probably the most boring person to ask because I'm basically going to go by population and say that China's the strongest, followed by Europe, followed by Korea, followed by NA, followed by, and the rest are weak.
What about Japan?
Yeah.
Japan as a region is terribly weak. We just have a couple of very strong players. But in terms of like, if you were to hop on ladder and try to qualify through ladder, assuming that your region had ladder snapshots, you definitely want to move to a low pop area, and you probably get a free spot.
That's what makes me making worlds from China 4 times in a row just so outrageous. It's like making worlds 4 times in a row is hard in any region. Doing it in China is disgusting.
He is insane.
Okay, wait. We need you to rank the bottom 4 regions.
Okay.
Even if you're flipping a coin, we still need to do it.
I'm gonna put Japan up top, followed by OCE, followed by both the Latin American regions.
Who goes higher, LATAM or Brazil?
He can't
Brazil's
get out
higher.
this one.
Brazil is higher. Okay, so the second question I'm going to ask everybody is, on a scale of 1 to 10, rate the representatives from your region. I know that you are one of them, but you're rating them holistically, with 10 being we sent the best representatives on the server, 1 being we got more dogged and we sent really weak players.
So Tidal is a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. That guy is just insane. He can play he's fluent in any style of play. He can play on pretty much any line. Sometimes he'll play things that he definitely shouldn't be playing just to see if he can do it. And I'm very impressed with the way that he has grown as a player over the last couple of sets. I personally, I'm like a 5 or a 6. I'm probably one of the weaker guys at Worlds. I'm not going to deny that, but I definitely have improved a lot since I won my qualification tournament. I've gotten a lot of coaching from a couple of guys on the server that are much more analytical than I am. I'm an emotional guy that plays off of experience alone. So having that insight into why I should be doing certain things has helped really improve my play. So I could definitely see myself making day 3. It's going to come down to who gets more dogged and who gets the Dragon Souls.
Okay, so combined score for all of Japan, because you got to give me one number for kind of the total reps. What do we want it to be?
Let's say 8.
8. Okay.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good in the grand scheme of things.
Next question is, what are 2 things that you think your region does better than other regions? Or you and Holi, or you and Tidal, rather?
I think just based off of like our in-houses, we're not afraid to be aggressive and to level aggressively. I've seen a lot of players be very careful to protect their econ, like, not going 6 on 2-6 or 7 on 3-2 or anything like that. And I've taken advantage of the lobbies, and I know Tidal, I'm just watching his stream in NA, everyone really watches in houses. He's taking advantage of NA lobbies just by being super aggressive and leveling really quickly. And it's just not something that I really see a lot from other regions. And the people that you do see do that, a lot of times they fall apart. They're stuck rolling to 0 on 7 because they lose their streak or something. Yeah, Tidal's not like that, and I definitely am not going to pursue that line if I can't take advantage of it. So, yeah, I think we can be very aggressive compared to other regions.
If I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like you just look at the spot and you think to yourself, what would Bebe do? And then it's fine.
It's fine, yeah.
Okay, and then the inverse of that question, what's something that you think your region is worse at than the other regions at Worlds?
I think, not counting Tidal, because that guy's super flexible, I think our region is not very flexible. I think a lot of people play towards extremely cookie cutter comps, and they don't explore less taking augments. They don't try to think outside the box, and so we end up seeing a lot of the same, not necessarily end game compositions, but like the same stage 3 boards, like over and over and over, and it's definitely not good practice to play on my region if you want to do it on Worlds.
I love it. Okay, I think that's all the time we have for you. I would love to stay and chat with you. We really appreciate you being part of the show, Holi. This was super fun, and best of luck this weekend. You got this. Go prove everybody wrong.
Thanks, appreciate it. We'll do my best.
Good luck, buddy. All right, and with that, Holi leaves us, and we are joined by Cloud9's k3soju. Should I say Dragonlands Championship qualifier k3soju? How you doing, buddy?
Sup. Hello.
How goes the in-houses? How goes the prep? Are you going to farm these bots?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Whoa,
the thing is, before China joined, that shit was like it was just straight up like SeaWorld. But now that like China joined, I'm pretty sure I'm just getting diffed.
Why don't you just copy them? Just look at whatever they're doing and copy it.
They said they can hear me twice.
Double trouble Keck. Okay.
Oh, it's
fixed? It's fixed? Sweet. All right. It seems to be fixed.
Okay.
How are they diffing you? What are they doing that is better?
I'm only getting diffed by Kezi. I think all the other Chinese players are like whatever, but I think Kezi is like by far the best.
Okay.
And I'm like, the thing is like, you know how there's 32 players? I'm pretty sure Kezi has like a 20% at least to win. He's actually too good.
Aesah, anyway. You want to challenge that statement?
Trust me, trust me. I'm like, I don't think the edge is that big usually, but like, you know when you get diffed.
Wait, what about Kwame?
He's okay. I actually don't think he's that good this year, but I think Kezi and Fly are the best, and I think Shunga is the third best.
How would you rank yourself out of 32?
I think I'm like third or fourth.
All right.
And that's borne out by we were fishing around for some bets from the other regions. Nobody wanted to bet against Soju. All of Europe was like, we watched Soju. This guy is too good.
Oh, that's weird because Lelouch wagered me. That's weird.
Oh, we take those. Free money. Why not? Okay, so the big part of the show, Soju, is kind of talking about the storylines of the regions, right? Like, what are the strengths and weaknesses of them, etc. Let's start by talking about the players that are here. We talked a little bit about you. How are you feeling about Omdi, Rain, and k3soju going into Worlds?
I haven't really talked to Omdi or k3soju. I mean, the thing is, k3soju went into NA regionals with like no prep, and he like kind of popped off. But he was like really good with one line, and then he like high rolled that one line like multiple times. But I've been talking a little bit to Rain, and I think she's actually like really good. But I think that Omdi doesn't really play that much either. So I'm not too confident about Omdi or k3soju. They're probably like wild cards, but I think me and Rain will probably do pretty well.
Yeah, I think Rain is really good, especially when you put her up, when you think about how long she's been playing for. I said when I was on your stream the other day when we were watching PGod that him and Aesah were the two like clear most improved over the course of the last two sets, but Rain also belongs on that list. Like those three players over the set 6 and 7 have taken massive leaps forward in terms of where they're at relative skill wise to the rest of the pack.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think Rain is super good. I've done some prep with Rain for regionals, etc.
And what's your thought on Omdi and k3soju? Do you have any opinions on either of them?
I mean, I haven't really watched Omdi play, so I don't really know. But I just know his regionals performance. Like, yeah, he probably didn't prep that much, but I feel like there's no excuse to go like not a single top 4. And then k3soju, I watched some of his VODs. He seems like he's really bad playing from behind, but I think when he's like ahead, he knows how much to grade. So that's actually good because I think some of the players in Worlds are like pretty weak. So I think k3soju can easily like take advantage of that.
We also didn't get to see any of his techs at regionals, right? k3soju coming into regionals was best known for being like a creative degen player. He was the guy that would reroll all sorts of units that no one was thinking about rerolling at all times. And I've definitely seen him do that in other tournaments in set 7. So it'd be interesting to see if he finds any of those outs during the Dragonland Championship, because he really didn't at regionals.
Yeah.
Aesah, how about you? Do you have any opinions on Rain, AMD, or we talked about Rain a little bit, but how about AMD and k3soju specifically?
I co-streamed regionals after I was eliminated in day 2, so I watched k3soju play. I also VOD reviewed AMD in between day 1 and day 2, just to like prep for myself. I wasn't that impressed with either of them. I think k3soju is like just overall like a veteran TFT player. Like he has really good instincts. But I feel like AMD committed to lines like on stage 2 way too often. And from what I hear, they don't have as much time. AMD in particular, I think, like has real life issues, or not issues, but just doesn't have much time to prep. So I would kind of echo what Soju said. I feel good about Soju and Rain, and I mean I hope AMD and k3soju do well. They both have amazing like personalities. They're super positive. But yeah, hope they do well.
That sounds about right. AMD, it felt like from studying his VODs earlier, right? Because he qualified so long ago through mid-set. It's been a while since we got to see him actually in form. I saw a lot of potential in his play when I was studying his set 7 play. I didn't even bother watching his regionals. It was so obvious that he was underprepared and went so poorly. It's just hard to imagine learning much from watching him. So it's just a question of which AMD is going to show up. We have time to get kind of to a place where he feels like he's playing at least even decent TFT relative to what he's capable of.
I watched him at mid-set, and he took like some really creative lines. But when I watched him at regionals, he just like got prep on 2-1s. Was like, all right, I'm hard forcing Seraphine, like even with no items for it or whatever.
And this is from the Seraphine Graves player too. I guess you can't be the, because Kurum played it like almost 2020. But
did he have a BF or a belt, or was he just like hard force?
I don't remember, but I remember he was just playing it from spots where, like, just because he had like prep or bear together, and he was playing from spots that I thought would be pretty crazy. What do you feel about turning nerves going into Worlds? This is gonna be your first time at Worlds, Soju, and are you nervous, or do you think you're gonna perform?
I feel like I'm more nervous for regionals, and honestly, like. This is not the good mentality, but it's like, dude, I don't even care if I go dead last. At least I made it to Worlds. You know what I mean?
I think that's kind of a good mentality, honestly, because like when you have no pressure, you do really well. And then when you're like when it like matters too much, like when you watch like the Olympics and everyone's like, oh, I practiced this 1,000 times, I never messed up, but they mess up once time to perform. That's good.
Okay, Soju, it's time. We need you to rank the regions. Do you know them off the top of your head? Do you want me to give them to you?
No, I think I know all of them. I think. I mean, I think the best region is China, and I don't think they're underrated, or not underrated. I don't think they're overrated at all. And then the thing is, like, I usually would say NA is better than EU, but because Amde and k3soju don't really play the game, I think I'll put EU above NA.
Oh,
I mean,
baby.
But that's only because, okay, the thing is, I don't think EU is that good, but I think DTIYDK and Double actually play the game right now. I think last regionals, I think DTIYDK was really weak. I remember watching his games before our regionals, and it was like not that good.
What about Lelouch? Is Lelouch good?
Oh, I mean, I don't think he's bad, but he doesn't like stand out as much as Double and DTIYDK does. I think Double might actually be slightly better than DTIYDK. I'm not really sure. They both have like different play styles, but like, yeah, I don't know.
This guy's doing a complete 180. This guy was in my DMs the other day calling Double a bot.
No, I didn't say he was a bot. I thought DTIYDK was better, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know, but I think yeah. And then next is NA for sure, and then I think this year KR is actually not that bad. I think Bintium is really good. Oh, is Bintium even from Korea?
I don't know that off the top of my head. Sorry.
Okay, I think My Paradise and Bintium are actually really good.
Okay.
But I don't really know about
he's Korea, Bintium.
Yeah, I don't really know the other players, but Bintium has like these really creative lines, and his like board progression is like super good from early, mid, and late. Itemization's good. Like he's definitely solid. Paradise knows what he's doing. And I think the other regions are just so bad that it's just RNG.
You gotta do them. I need a ranking.
I think Latin America is worse by far.
Okay, so they're last for you.
I mean, if you go into their lobby, it's like I don't even understand how they're playing Xayah from their spot. They like love Xayah, and it's reportable. It's just like you scout them on 3-2, you already know they're going 7th at best, and you know what? They go 8th as expected. But anyway, no, like the thing is, I don't think they're that bad, but I think what makes a good player is like being able to play from behind, and that's why I think China's like so good, because all 5 of their players, or all 6 of their players, I've seen them like actually come back. But like when I see like some of the minor regions, like low roll early game, they are just so lost, and they just play the same game, and then they get like 7th at best. But anyway, and then I think, wait, I don't even know the other regions.
Brazil,
Japan.
Oh, I would say Japan's probably the better. I think Holi's actually not that bad. I haven't seen Title play a single time. So I would say then it's Japan. And then it's
BR Ross.
Who even are the Brazilian players? Conda, Slooper, VCLF. Is it 3? I think it's 3. I think Brazil's better than OCE. I think it's Brazil, then OCE, then Latin America.
Aesah is crying somewhere.
But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. I just know that Kezi and Fly are like kind of good. Yeah.
All right. Next up is rate the NA qualifiers, including yourself, holistically on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being you sent the best 4 players on the server, and 1 being we sent like the worst 4 players that entered into the regional tournament.
Like a 4. I don't know, but not because of me though, because like I thought that I was like going to regional. I thought I was like the second best after Sox, but then after watching day 1 Sox, I thought I was like actually the best. Yeah, probably like a 4.
Okay. So Soju replaced Dan at the last second. Dan, you got to drop your number in the chat. I was really curious to see what you were going to give this, Dan. So we got to hold your feet to the fire, even though you're not actually on the show anymore. This is your show after all. Okay. Last set of questions is, what's something you think NA does better than the other regions?
I mean, I think the players that we sent, we don't really do anything better. But I think if we sent like Aesah, Dish Soap, Milk, and me, I think we actually use our brain, and we know how to play different spots. Yeah.
The difference between NA and the other regions is that we use our brain.
Can you elaborate a bit more on like what using your brain? Like, what does that look like in TFT?
It's just like you're not playing the same game every single game. Like, so like if you like your game plan changes depending on spots, and you're just trying to like squeeze out. It's not even like squeezing out. It's like, you know, when you watch like a gold player play, and then when they're like lose streaking early, they just you already know that like they're a bot. If they just level to like, they're like, oh, I'm kind of low, I'm like 60 HP, and they just level to 6 on like 3-1 and just send it down to 0. I'm not saying it's as drastic as that, but I think like people actually have like a game plan to get some placements. You know, some people just play the same game and they just go dead last. But I mean, they don't go dead last. They maybe like squeeze out a 7th, and like maybe someone that like actually had a game plan to come back goes 8th. But the thing is, you would rather go 8th with the game plan to like not go 7th. You know what I mean? But some people are just straight up playing for 7th. And whenever I watch someone that plays for 7th, I just get like tilted.
Fair enough. All right, what do you think is something that NA does worse than the other regions?
Dude, I don't even know. I think some regions are so bad that I'm pretty sure k3soju is like middle of the pack here, and he has played only skills from Talia reroll.
Bro, don't leak the tech, man.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, what is something you think NA does worse than, for example, like EU or China then?
I think we're just not. We actually don't know all. Like we know how to play. I think most of the players know how to play, like one line or like one comp like really well, but they don't like allow themselves to play other ones. Like myself included. Like for example, I think I leaned too heavily towards Soifin, when I should have actually put Prio on like some other things. But I think like with my Soifin line, I think my Soifin line was like really clean. But I think knowing or like expanding the amount of comps that you play is valuable.
Yeah. This is the only reason where I feel like I'm like somewhat of an authority and can theoretically answer this question. And that's definitely what strikes me, especially if you look at this regionals. We had the most narrow meta by far at regionals. Minor regions had wider metas than us. We, as a general rule of thumb, have way fewer outs in mind to start the game. That's not true across the board. Obviously, there are some wider players, but in general, I feel like we're a pretty narrow region.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, but also I think to compensate, I think like when we do play the narrow, like when we are narrow, we like execute it better. Yeah, so it like kind of makes up for it. So if we could be like a little bit more wide and then learn like one or two more comps like super like clean, I'm pretty sure that's what like China feels like. I feel like there's like 10 viable like lines, and then they actually know how to play like 8 or 9 of them like perfect. So that's what's like so scary. It's like there is a lot of luck. Like sometimes you just hit. Like for example, like double trouble, you just win the game instantly. Well, like I'm like some people like I don't want to leak anything, but I'm just saying some people are still playing Swain on their board. I don't even understand what's going on there. This guy's level 7 just playing Swain with double trouble, and it wasn't even double trouble 1; it was double trouble 2. Like, but anyway,
I was bitching about that before regionals. People were giving me shit. I was like, I feel like it's almost never Swain in double trouble, and everyone's like, no, it's Swain most of the time, and here's the conditions. I don't get it, man.
I saw this guy today. He sacked Radiant Zephyr. It doesn't even work. His prismatic is a sack Radiant Zephyr on stage 3, and he's sacking Essence on his like rel 1. Like I'm just sitting here like, dude.
Wait, name names.
I Gyazoed it and I sent it to Precedent. Let me go find
it.
I mean, is this from the worst region by far?
I don't think so, actually.
Oh, okay.
It was from. Oh wait, it was Latin America. His board is Kiana 1, rel 1, rel 1, Aphelios 2, Rengar 1, Rengar 1. With a Radiant Zephyr on his Kiana that doesn't even proc, and his augments are Darkflight Heart, Radiant Zephyr. Like level 6, like I whatever, man. It just trust me. I'm telling you, like I don't want to be disrespectful. Like I really think they're cool guys. And Life's Bad is he's actually like been my viewer since like set 1. And I don't want to be disrespectful to Latin America. Like I'm sure you guys are cool guys, but like yeah, you guys are not very good at TFT.
I mean, part of this is about, and it's the same thing in like League of Legends, right? We talk all the time about why NA is bad at League, and there's 1,000,001 explanations of it, but at least one of the explanations is you can only get as good as you are pressure tested to become on kind of your daily training basis. So if overall the region is behind and you're not feeling that amount of pressure, then it's hard sometimes to continue to ratchet up to get to the kind of the level that one of the bigger regions is at.
Holi mentioned that with Japan too. And then Panda mentioned it in his write-up about like the Latin America World reps are like by far the best players in their regionals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Smoju, we gotta let you go, buddy. As much as I'd love to keep talking to you, we gotta keep this show on the road. Any final thoughts?
No win trade, but Kezi or Fly is winning Worlds, and I'm going. Honestly, I don't even know if I'll make it the final day, but if I make it the final day, I'll probably go like 3rd or 4th. But if I don't make it the final day, expect dead last because I don't even want to play anymore.
I'm
because like the format's weird. Like the format this year, it's like weird.
Yeah.
Like day 1 5 games, day 2 5 games, and it's like 10 games spot 75% get eliminated. Mm-hmm. Isn't that like kind of bad or no?
Oh, I think it's kind of cool because it's like a bigger sample size.
I wish it was 6-6 personally, but I do not hate it. It more sample size is great for Worlds from my perspective.
Oh. I don't know. I just know if I'm like averaging like a 4.5 after 5 games, you can expect it like an 8-8, 8-8 internet DC.
Or a 1-1-1-1. Hello?
Oh no, I think my mental would just be gone.
No. It's Worlds. Keep it together, buddy. You got this.
Okay. But
all right,
thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
All right, bye.
See ya.
All right. Soju says goodbye, and Cutler says hello.
Hello.
Cutler, hello, buddy. How goes it?
Guys, yeah, thank you very much for having me. You guys have been on my show. Now it's, thank you for returning the favor.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor to have you here. Glad to have us represented. How are you feeling about your region heading into this year's Dragonlands Championship?
I was feeling pretty bad until I heard Soju complain that he's probably getting day one. So I'm actually feeling really good now.
Nice.
I think we got a good chance. We're sending 2 good reps this year. I'm really looking forward to it.
And historically, Aesah has punched above its weight, right? For a minor region, you guys have consistently sent people on to the final day and been very competitive. Is that fair, or am I only remembering kind of the good parts and ignoring some of the bad?
Well, I think one of the things about OCE is that we're a very small region, so a lot of the underperforming always feels worse than it is, and a lot of the overperforming always feels better than it is. We've had really good luck. We've had good players go to Worlds. The best player at the time in the region goes to the World Championships, and I think the same can be said this time around as well.
Wow, that's really good. I'm curious, you mentioned you're a small region. Do you know, like, because from NA, I know like there's a bunch of small regions, but I don't know how they stack up population-wise against each other. Are you familiar with that?
Well, put it this way, there's never a full challenger lobby in OC, pretty much. There's never an 8 challenger lobby, even in peak times of the tournament, the set. It'd be hard pressed finding a full challenger 200 leaderboard until probably halfway through the set, even at some points. So it is a very small region. It's not one of the biggest ones. I mean, we sort of get maybe 150 odd people per sort of open qualifier tournament, and those are pretty good numbers for us as well. So yeah, it is very small, especially compared to NA.
Cutler, forgive me. The first question was supposed to be about you. We skipped a little bit straight into the substance, but I'd love to just talk about kind of who you are within the Aesah TFT community. Yeah,
certainly. So myself and my co-host Sol, we host a podcast called The Roll Down. Originally started as a way for the OC community to get their name out there and to have a chance to show who they were on more of an international stage, and we've been lucky enough to really grow that and have international guests. As I mentioned, you guys have been on the show before. Panda, who will be coming up later, has been on the show. So we're really lucky to have grown that. I mean, I am a TFT player. I've been playing a long time. Have been a challenger player. Definitely not every single set, but I'd say like my relative knowledge of TFT is quite high. Just it's a real life diff sometimes,
I feel that deeply, my friend. So speaking a little bit more about the players heading into this event, talk to us about Huey. Talk to us about, is it Tamura?
Yeah, Tamura.
Who are they? It sounds like you were high on both of them coming in, which is great. So tell us a little bit more about these players and maybe why we should be rooting for them.
Yeah, as I mentioned a little bit, I think when OCE sends players to Worlds, you can be really confident that they are the best players of the region, at the very least of that set. Overall, I'd say, there's sort of more historical MVPs of the region that would always be up there. Players like Aesah, you mentioned, players like Angora. These are sort of 2 of the biggest names in OCE, but they're not always at the World Championships because they're not always the best at a patch, at the regional tournaments. So I'll start with Tamura, who was our regional champion. He's sort of the most consistent OCE player I've ever seen, realistically. I think he's someone who knows how to play his very, very specific outs, is really, really good at making sure that a game where he thinks his ceiling is 5th, he will come 5th. He will do his absolute best possible to prepare himself for the highest ceiling that he can. He's definitely more of like a fast 8 player, a 4-2 roll it down, a 4-5 it kind of guy. He's not and had never really up until very recently been a reroller. So I think that just because of how many possible re-roll outs there are in the current meta, we may see him struggle a little bit. But from watching his streams the last couple of weeks, he's put a lot of hours into learning re-roll comps. I think he will be probably one of, if not the surprises of the event, to be honest. I think he's got a really good chance of going a good distance.
What does that mean, good distance?
Well, I think a final day appearance wouldn't be out of the question for someone like Tamura. I think he's got the mentality and the skill set to really hyper focus on beating other players. TFT, as we all talk about all the time, is just a game that is masked as a like psychological battle sometimes. You know, he is very good at maintaining calm, maintaining his placement average, maintaining his strong boards throughout the game so that he can specifically pick off players that he believes are weaker in lobbies.
Okay. And how about Huey?
Yeah, let's talk about Huey. Huey, it was almost a total disaster for Huey in the third day of regionals. His first 3 games, he went 7-7-8 and was at that time knocked out of World's competition on championship points. Then he had a insane mental turnaround, went 1-1-2, finished third, and managed to leap over a couple of people to qualify on championship points to the event, which is really great. Then that's something that will be very valuable at Worlds, maintaining a strong mental and maintaining the belief that you can make it. You don't really have a serious opportunity to consistently go 1-1-1 every game unless you're high rolling your ass off. So you do have to take the low rolls when they come and sort of dust yourself off and get back and go for it. Huey's like a very win streak centric player, someone who really focuses on playing strong early boards and prepping his sort of items and general TFT style for the end game. I guess I would describe it, before TFT sort of really popped off in the competitive scene and we got a lot more events, the guides and the way you would learn how to play TFT in like set 1, set 2, even set 3 were buy this unit on this level at this time, roll at this time, go out there and have fun. And I think that Huey is one of the absolute best at maintaining a very strong pathway throughout a game like that.
Wow. How do you think these two players stack up against each other, Huey and Tamura? Do you think there's like a big skill gap between them, or?
Not necessarily, no. I just think they're very different players. Huey is like the ultimate early game win streak player, and Tamura is just a very consistent. He will flex, he'll play different comps, he'll play exactly what he's given during the game. You know, he's not someone that will overexert himself just for the sort of the small chance that he might high roll. He's so I think they match up quite well. It's always nice when a region sends players who have differing skills to a World Championships as well, because there's sort of more of a chance that one of them will do well.
Are they prepping together? Do you know what kind of prep they're doing leading into the event?
Yeah, as I sort of mentioned a little bit, Tamura is focusing a lot on learning how to reroll. Essentially, he's just never really been a reroll player, so a lot of his prep was hyper focused on perfecting the sort of the lines that allow you to reroll. And I know for a fact that Huey as well is sort of really working hard to ensure he's prepared at the moment as well.
Okay, super interesting. We got to get into the part of the show we're doing with everybody. I think you've seen it at this point. It's time to rank the regions. What you got, Cutler?
All right, so I think you will see a very common theme here, China number 1. I've put NA in second, although listening to Soju, I was way more concerned that they may just be sending a couple of bots to this event. So I have NA in second. I'm going to keep them there. And I think EU in third. I find it quite difficult to rank the next 3. I have KROC Brazil in that order, so 4, 5, and 6. I think that when you get down to the regions who are either sending a lot of players or only a few players, it becomes really hard to figure out. I mean, EU's sending 5 players, but one of them could be good, or all 5 of them could be insane. You never really know until the tournament. And then I have Japan and LATAM last, mostly because having watched some of the scrims for myself, I'm in pretty agreement that LATAM players may not know exactly what they're doing at all times.
I love it. Okay, rate your region's reps on a scale 1 to 10. 10 being you felt like you sent the best you could have sent. 1 being you basically sent the worst you could have sent.
I'm going to go a solid 7 on this one. 7.5 if you'll allow it. You know, I think we sent 2 really good players who have a good chance to make it past, to make it into the latter stages of the tournament.
This feels a little bit inconsistent with what you were saying earlier, because it sounded like you were saying you thought you were sending basically your best players. So 7.5 suggests to me that you're sending solid players, but that there's a lot of other players in the region you wish you could have sent above them.
Well, you know, I mean, I would love to be going to this event, but I didn't even play in regionals. So that 2.5 is really just for myself, who's very disappointed that he won't be there this weekend.
Woksh.
All right, so what are some things you think that your region, Tamura and Huey in particular, do better than the other regions?
I think you'll find that they've got a very strong mental. I think it's very clear that in competing in high-end events like this, you need a strong mind, you need a strong heart, you know, and then the TFT's got to go your way as well. So having them be focused, having them be prepared, having them not get tilted, and not lose out on low rolling, I think that's going to be a real benefit to these guys this event.
All right. What about the inverse? What's something that they do weaker?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was sort of thinking about this as you were asking the other guests. I think that these players are not reroll experts. You know, as I said, they're sort of going into the event, putting a lot of emphasis into learning reroll compositions, but there are a lot of reroll options in the game and a lot of angles that facilitate reroll, and we'll see a lot of it this event. So I think comparatively speaking, composition wise, that's probably where they lack.
Great. Cutler, any final thoughts, shout outs before we let you go, man?
Yeah, if you will let me, guys, listen to the Roll Down TFT podcast. If you like to hearing Australian guys complain about the state of TFT.
I love it. It was such a pleasure to have you on, man. Thanks a lot for joining.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
See you, Cutler.
Cheers.
See you guys.
All right, Cutler exits. Tanner enters. Tanner, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome.
Hey.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really excited to have you. I think for most people, they think of you as kind of the bridge between China and the West. You're a source of a huge amount of knowledge as it relates to the Chinese TFT scene. Can you talk a little bit about your background in TFT and how you wound up where you are?
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me here, and I'm so happy and so excited to talk to you guys and share the background of Chinese players and the CN regionals. So, first of all, I am a content creator and a partner with Tencent, that is the League of Legends runners in China. So, so if the time goes back to like the set 1, that's the first time I played TFT in PBE, and during the PBE time, I figured out that this battle game, auto chess game, is very fun for me. Then I got addicted to it, and I just stopped playing TFT. And then I got to know many talented players like Shinge or Kizzy, and we became friends. And back in that time, TFT's competitive scene was not very popular until like set 3. But even set 3, it was like we don't have a live stream for that, and it was until set 4 where Huang Mi and Kezi, you can see on the screen, these 2 players, they play in the Fate Championship, and China took a very serious action on this tournament, and we increased the prize pool, and that was the first time where the TFT esport got the eyes. for the players.
And it feels like you basically have exploded since then, right? Later to the party, maybe, but man, do I get jealous watching CN broadcasted TFT. The production value is so high. You're often in person, right, for these events with players there, sometimes even fans there. The staging, just the production quality of the event itself, it's been crazy to watch how quickly it has grown over there.
Yeah. So Chinese production for the TFT, I'd say, yeah, we have kept an eyes on that, and we want to improve. And we watch many different regions. We watch, for example, we watch the NA regionals, and we watch the Rise Legend. That's EMEA, right? The Europe, the EMEA one. And we learn that what can be improved, like the overlaid or something else like the HP bar, which might cover some health bar for the unit. And there's so many different things can improve. And even then, later in this set, we have let me think. We should talk about the augment thing, because that's something like the first thing that people notice are different and want to improve. So we have like a LAN studio, and we have 8 PC at least to catch up different POB from 8 players. And you can see 8 players their PC live stream of picking up the augments. And that's something that I think is very cool. And that's where we truly began to have some good production quality. Yeah.
Hopefully NA will steal that for set 8.
Yeah, down.
Is it possible?
Sorry?
Oh no, I would say, is it possible that, because like even we are doing the online, but it's like it takes a lot of time and money to do that. We have to set up like 10 PC or even 12 PC.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the tough thing from when I look at what's happening on your broadcast versus ours is just the money, right? I mean, your prize pools are bigger. It's very clear the investment that you have to put into both the equipment that you're talking about using, the graphics that you're using, the number of people required to be working a show to do it the way you're doing it. It is on another level, but it's justified, right? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but TFT is one of the most popular games in China, period. Not just strategy games, not just games in this genre, but just one of the biggest games there is.
So as for this topic, I would say that so for the competitive scene, maybe casual player or most of the players, they are not very excited to watch the esport, but most Chinese players, so what catch their eyes was like they want to play Fortune, they want to play PieHat, and they want to play any for fun trade or entertainment trade. And I think that might be a very huge difference, because people just want to have fun. So that's why they just dive into this set 8 PBE, and you can see every time if the PBE got a very long queue, it might because there are too many Chinese players.
So let's get into those players themselves, Tanner. So you're sending 6 players. It's a lot of different folks. Who do you have your eye on going into this event? Who would you say are the favorites from CN heading into this weekend?
Okay, so my personal favorite would be Xunge. So I watched Xunge since like set 2 or set 1. It was set 1 on Battlefield, and he's a player like he's like Soju style. He wants to play for late game. He will have a very strong like opener and every possible combination of different units to build up a very strong early board. And you want to like save the health, save the HP to play mid game, to play late game, which is very different from other players like Huang Mian or k3soju. So Huang Mian and k3soju, they can choose to play open fort or like doing some little comps that we've seen in previous set. And Xunge is more like He want to get very stable and want to have everything in his control. And even though it's a top four is good for him. And we know in this format we have like we have to play in 2 days, and that's 10 rounds, and the format is 8-7-6 points. So I think this format is very good for him. So Shinga is my favorite player this year.
I've watched a lot of Shunga. I'm glad to hear how his name is actually finally pronounced. But yeah, okay. I actually got to watch the Chinese VODs because of Tanner, because of your links that you provide us. And people ask me in my stream all the time, like, how do I get this list? But yeah, I really like him as well.
I heard different people pronounce it differently, like some girl or some, and I feel very weird.
Oh yeah,
it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Dan wants to ask what you think about Chi2 singing.
Chi2 singing. Oh, there was like we want to have something like a pre-show, and we asked Chi2 if he was willing to, and he said yes, and we were all surprised. And the show just came out without any preparation. He just walked into the stage and just started singing, and it was not bad, right? It was not bad.
Yeah, it was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
Definitely better than I could do. Okay, so we've been asking all of the different folks that have been guests so far the same set of questions, just so we have some kind of qualitative and quantitative comparisons across all of our experts from all of our different regions. So the first question I wanted to ask is, how would you rank the regions top to bottom in terms of their strength going into this event?
My rank for the 8 regions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. So if I have to rate 8 regions from the top to the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is not just my thought, it's also the conclusions that we have discussed with our players, our 6 players. So
interesting.
So,
all right.
Of course, I will rate China in the top, no surprise. And then we had like the past 2 days we have been competing with other players on the tournament server for the screen for the in-house, and we figure out that this time the Korean players, they are very strong. Like my Paradise, like Bintun, that qualified from the Eastern LCQ. So we think Korean is the second strongest region, and they have some very good players. So Korean is the second one, and the third one is EMEA. And we started the EMEA regional finals, and we spotted the group stage was the same format as the World Championship. They play 2 days, 10 rounds with the same format, and we think that with this format, it's very possible to choose the strongest 8 players to send them to the finals. So I think EMEA already has sent their strongest 8 players to the Worlds, and also another one from Western LCQ. And then we will rate NA region. So NA region, we watched the regional finals, and I just spotted this k3soju player, k3soju. No one I watch your long talk. If you don't know prediction for the NA regional finals, and not too many people like rate him as a very high level skill player, but he just popped up and got first in the finals. So I think NA is very good, and so also Soju is very good. Soju was like he came up to me. He came to me and he said he wanted to play in the China Super Server, and then I watched his stream, and he has improved a lot, especially his mid game, his late game, his decision in getting a like a more a proper tempo play in a competitive scene. So I would say NA this year will get better. And then as it comes to Latin American, so this time we have 4 Latin American players, and one of them he just impressed us in the scrim. His name is called the Tech Summer. So I think he's a very, very good player. And then it comes to Brazil. So Brazil, I don't know too well of these 3 players, but I know that BCLF and Strooper, these 2 players, they it's not their first time to play on the World Championship, but I hope this time they can get better. And then the final one is Japan. I think I watched the Japan regional finals with other players, and what I figure out is there are 2 players, they just dominating the lobby. So I cannot say the real power of those players, but 2 players dominating, and I cannot tell who is really good. So I have to wait and see the 8 regions. So my rank will be China and Korea, EMEA, North America, Latin America, Brazil, Japan, and then Oceania.
Okay.
I'm
That's
curious.
great.
You said like we watched it. Did you watch it with all 6 of your world dress? Like, are you guys all like studying together?
I download all the VOD, and I put it in USB drive, and then I take the USB drive to the hotel, and we live at the hotel together. Like we are in LAN, so we analyze all those VODs and tell which region or which player is special, is strong, and we started together.
Wait, was this after you've determined your qualifiers? You were all in a hotel on LAN practicing together?
So the TOC event, the China regional finals, it's a LAN event in Shanghai. Yeah, and we all came together.
Okay, so you all studied together while you were there for regionals.
Yeah, except Kezi, he was in Guangzhou. He was at home because he cannot come to Shanghai. So we are all together, right?
Cool. That sounds
super interesting. Honestly, man, I wish we had more time because I want to unpack a lot of this, right? But we don't. Unfortunately, I gotta keep us moving. So the next question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being you're sending your best players and 1 being you're sending your weakest players that kind of were in the qualification mix, how do you feel you would rate your 6 players that China is sending to represent the region?
1 and 10 to pick 2, right?
Yep, 1 through 10.
Okay, so if I'm gonna say 10, I would say Huang Mian. So Huang Mian was a player like in the first time he participated in the World Championship. It was the Fate Championship, and we discussed a lot. At that time, I didn't know this player very well. I just know this player loved to play Warlord, Fortune, and in set 5 in Reckoning set, he loved to play the Legionnaire, and the comp was like, you just play Lost Drake, auto lose, and then start playing the game at 3-5. That's what I know about Huang Mian like 2 years ago. But now I witnessed these players. He grew a lot. He can play early game. He can play mid game. He can play late game. And as the CEO of Alpha Gaming Club, the boss like comment Huang Mian. He was like, he went like Huang Mian is the best player that can take every use of every single argument, even without to look at the data. You don't need to look at the data. He has the greatest understanding of each argument, and that's why he thinks that in many times when you say that Huang Mian became the player that so let's say this time he qualified for world as the fifth seed. which is the last seed of CM.
Mhm.
And last time he was the 6th seed, the last seed. And every single time he has to make a very different conclusion or different strategy to get the last seed. I would say the CN regional is very hard to get in and to qualify for World, but he still made it 4 times in a row, so he will be the 10. And for the 1, I will. It's very hard for me to rate. I would give.
So to be clear, we don't need you to rate any of these players a 1. The idea is if you put all the players together, what would you say is the strength overall of your representatives from China this year? So, like for example, the other folks like from Japan, they rated themselves as an 8 overall. From Oceania, they rated themselves as 7.5 overall. Soju gave North America a 4 overall because he felt like we were sending some of our weaker players this year. So it's really just one number for the whole region, or your representatives from the region this year.
Oh, so I would say it's not that low. I investigate their rank, their LP, and I figure out that they are all like in all the previous set they have made to 2K LP each, which is a lot. And even the player Fly, is currently like 1.9K LP. Is very high. So I would say it's not very low, and I expect all of them to perform well. Even they get eliminated, I think they maybe can get something like top 10 or maybe top 12, top 16, top 16.
Okay, sounds like maybe this is like a 9 out of 10 then overall for the region.
I would say like 6, maybe 7, but
okay.
Those players, they have different play style, and I didn't understand very well of every single player, but I have a overall understanding of them.
Okay. So we're really short on time, but just at a high level, what's one thing you think that China does better than the other regions in TFT, and what's one thing you think they do worse than other regions, if anything?
Okay, so I've talked to Huang Mian and Xinge about this one, and when I was looking up all the data, and I want to figure out which part is different. We figure out that it's the sample size. So let's say the Chinese player, they have to play rank every set for the maybe it's like you play the rank and you get higher rank, you get paid by the streaming platform, and that drives all of the CM players, the high elo players, keep playing. They will not stop even their rank 1 or rank 5 to get the money. If they stop playing, they will be someone will go over. So this results in something like I have to keep playing and my sample size will go up. And with so many different games that I have played, I experienced so many different situations that can form into my like knowledge base. And that's something that I think is very different. And as for the weakest part, I would say that we are more like we didn't have enough time to practice or to play with other players from other regions, and we didn't play a lot in NA or other servers. And last night when we first time that tried to play scrims with other players, the tempo looks so different, and we have to adapt to that tempo, and that might be the hardest part for us to adapt.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, look, we have to let you go. I'm really genuinely sad to do it. My takeaway from this is we got to do a special episode of the pod. We got to have you on and be able to talk to you for hours, man, because I have like 100 follow-up questions on everything you said, but we need to keep it moving. So thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you, Tanner.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Good luck.
See you next time.
Yes.
You can invite me next time, and I can talk a little bit more. Okay.
It sounds great. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So Tanner exits, enters Panda, the impetuous one himself. That's a tough act to follow, man. I don't know how you're gonna do it, but you're gonna try.
And I have two regions as well, so I'm not sure about this one.
It's all right. It's all right. Mustache carry incoming. You got this. Okay, so let's just start with who you are. You're going to be doing 2 regions. You're our only person doing 2 regions. So maybe a little bit about your journey as well as your connectivity to both EMEA and Brazil.
Well, I am from Europe, although I sound kind of American because I lived in the US when I was younger. But, I started casting in set 6 when Rising Legends started and GG Tech took over on the broadcast side of things. I played TFT before in since set 1, but just on and off, not really a full focus thing. Set 3 a bit more. I got the Challenger, but I think it was like Mecha times and Reroll Protector, so I don't think that has much value. When I came back in set 6, the game was much more difficult. I think it got much more competitive while I was away. So it was like relearning it and getting to that competitive mindset. But it was a really nice introduction. I think the players were great. I talked about many players. I got to know them very well. I learned a lot about the game. I think even set 7, although I liked it less, I think I improved a lot more watching and casting the events themselves in terms of fundamentals, in terms of how to cap out boards. And I feel like, I'm still learning a lot, but I feel I'm in a good spot right now with TFT. And with the players, I do interviews with them. I think I have a good relationship with many of the players all over Europe, really. And now with some of the player profiles I did with Latam players in Brazil as well. And I just like, kind of bringing up the narratives of players and their stories and highlighting this because Riot hasn't done the best job of doing this until now. I think that'll change in the future, hopefully, but I feel it's a very important thing for tournaments for viewers to get invested. So that's my link to Brazil as well. And I lived in Brazil when I was very young and speak Portuguese, so I also have some bias towards the region and the language as well.
Awesome. And the breadth of your expertise is awesome. And the fact that you're bringing forth those storylines, I'm like every day I wake up and I go to your Twitter to find the thread on the players. I just think it's so great. We don't do enough of this type of work. And this show is an attempt at trying to bridge a little bit of that divide as well, where we know we're not going to be able to cover everything. Like we would love to be able to sit down and do multiple hours with each guest, but just doing a little primer so that people have some sense of the region, who these people are and their storylines and why you should root for them or care about them going into the event just feels so important and is generally speaking lacking. I feel like everyone knows the people from their region, but knows very little about everywhere else.
And they might know the players and how they, so how good they are, how bad they are, but I think it's more the narratives and the stories themselves. That's what really, I think, flushes out the reason to root for someone, aside from them just being, a name that's playing TFT and they're good at it, but that's really all there is to it. Knowing kind of the backstory of the players makes them much more human, and I think it's incredibly important for viewers, even if it's not from your region, to kind of connect with those players and understand why they're playing TFT, what they're aspiring to, what this means to them, if they're trying to win worlds or just happy to make it. I think there's big differences, and I think it's one of the most special things and what makes me want to watch tournaments and like esports so much.
Why don't you walk us through the EMEA players? Tell us a bit about these guys.
I think some of them don't need many introductions. There's some very veteran names that finally have had their chance to make it. I haven't followed the competitive scene since set 1. I think there's many players or viewers in the chat that will know these players better than me. But what I have seen, what I have heard, of course, from the past, and especially in these 2 sets, I think players like Daysik, it's a long time coming. It's a surprise they hadn't made it to World, so now it's finally, the time for them to show what they've learned throughout all this time living and breathing TFT. Because I think it's one of the players that has been at the top level, just undisputed, that everyone from other regions watches this player in EMEA as well. I think a role model for many players as well in terms of his skill, but also his dedication to the game. So happy to see him finally make it. I think him and Double 61, of course, past world champion overall. Doesn't matter how in tune he is with a specific set or a patch, you can tell he has that next level intuition, that next level understanding of TFT and how to compose a strong board out of pretty much anything that's necessary. Very creative player overall, someone that I just love watching ever since set 6. When I saw him win the EMEA regionals, I could tell right away like something was very different with this player. Just the way he played, it was like just different in terms of how he composes boards. And we have Alush, who I think popped off this set. Last set was top 8 in the EMEA regionals as well. Maybe has to deal with some mental and tilt stuff overall, but I think a very strong player, very consistent player. On ladder this set, Daysik and Alush have been kind of leapfrogging each other 1 and 2. Every single patch, set 7 and set 7.5 as well, the mid set. With Double 61 also having, I think, some patches where he feels like playing more and he pops off and also gets first easily. Coco also a very veteran player, very experienced. I think someone that, out of all these players, I think is the player that I expect to do maybe not the highest peak. He might not win Worlds, but I think he's a player that for sure will be top 16 and for sure will do very well. I think he's very consistent and very just experienced overall. Noel is more of a mystery, at least to me. I'm not sure exactly how much experience he has in past sets, but I didn't see him too much in set 6. This set, he did do well, but I think he's lacking some of the experience other players might have. And maybe on a global stage, pressure and nerves can come into the equation a lot. And Brix is kind of the young novelty. He did very well in set 6. When I started casting, I saw his name pop up so much in tournaments that I thought he was one of the OGs that had been around for so long. And then I only learned later that this was the first time he was really popping off in tournaments. But he's very, very good. He had some issues with pressure and his mental game in regional finals. He didn't have that problem in LCQ. I think he's a very streaky player. So I think a lot of his performance is going to depend on how well he starts and if he has that momentum going forward, mostly.
Sounds like the favorites are Dasik, Double, and Lelouch. Is that fair?
I think to win it all, I think I would put Dasik and Double 61 in like that the next level. Lelouch, I think it definitely can be top 8. I think especially if he has a good mental and he plays how he can play at his best level. I think he definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if he also won Worlds. I think he's done very well this set, and he's proven a lot. I think in the last 2 sets especially. Coco, like I said before, I think he's a very consistent player, and he's the player that I would guarantee will be top 16 in my opinion.
Guarantee. That is dangerous, my friend. Someone write that down somewhere.
Especially with my caster curses. I've cursed all the Spanish players this set. I don't know if you guys watched the GSCs, but the 2 GSCs that I wasn't casting day 3 because I had other stuff going on, a player popped off and was like second and was like not being one, the third one. So every time I'm on the desk, they do poorly, but all of a sudden when I'm not there, they actually do well. So I have to be very careful about my curses.
Hey, you're not casting Worlds. This is good. Maybe you guys just
There's no Spanish players though, so
yeah, fair.
All for nothing.
How good are Double and Dasik? Have you had a chance to study a lot of the Chinese players in particular? Do you think that they're on the level of the top tier Chinese players?
I think China overall just executes a lot better than everyone else. I think even Europe is going to be a little bit behind on that side of things in terms of just, they know the line every single time. They know how to do it properly. They almost just don't make mistakes. Maybe the game low rolls. Maybe they have one of those really terrible days of TFT, and that's what stops them. But overall, I think not all Chinese players, but the top Chinese players, I think, are above everyone else. That being said, I do think Dasik and Double have a chance to win Worlds if things go their way and they perform at a high level and they have good mental and everything goes well. But I think there's a good chance. I think Dasik, especially in Double 61, he's done it before. I think as long as he prepped properly for this Worlds compared to last one, and as long as he took it seriously, which I think he did because there hasn't been that much time for them to relax, I think we'll have a very good showing overall.
Okay, so we've got 2. Sorry, go for it, Aesah.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, are these guys friends with each other? Are they prepping together?
The French for sure, like Coco and Double 61, and Brix, he's Tunisian, and he lives in Russia, but he also speaks French because Tunisia has French as their second language, so he's part of the French community as well. The Coco helped him a lot with the Western LCQ prep, so for sure, I know Brix is part of the French community, and that's the best community in terms of level of play, but also level of prep, level of top players that are all giving their own opinions and kind of that bubble where the knowledge is constantly increasing. So in terms of prep for them, I know they're in very good hand. I'm not sure entirely who Dasik, Lelouch, and all are prepping with, but the Polish scene is also, I think, very strong. I think they have the national Ultraliga, which I think regional leagues helped a lot in Europe in terms of having these players more incentivized to play all throughout the set and really improving a lot more. So I think the Polish are in very good hands. I think we saw it with this Poison last Worlds and just his set overall, but now Lelouch as well in this set.
It sounds like Worlds doesn't bring the whole, I understand prepping kind of on regional divides throughout the season, but it's kind of similar in an A where not necessarily regional divides, but friendship group divides. But then when Worlds happens, usually they come together, share information, kind of prep as a cohort. It sounds like that's not happening.
It's because Europe has a lot of different communities because of the languages and the countries. So it's very segmented compared to other regions, even Latam, everyone speaks Spanish, Brazil, everyone speaks Portuguese, NA, obviously China. So that's the biggest problem and something that I talked to about a lot at the end of last set in my inexperience with the competitive TFT scene. I could see right away that this was something that if players were able to band together more, I think it would help. I'm not sure, again, to what level they're prepping together. I guess they're doing scrims, and I guess the world qualified players are trying to get the best possible idea of what the meta will look like and have the best meta read. But overall, something that has to be worked on. You can see the results immediately with Spain, for example, in this set. All of a sudden, there's a much bigger incentive for them to do boot camps in Madrid for all the GSCs and for them to prep together. We have a GSC winner, and overall, the level in Spain has increased a lot more. We saw 4 players in regionals compared to 1 last set. And it's the same with Poland with the Ultra Liga, for example. So I think if Europe is able to get the brightest minds together more often and in a more controlled and purposeful way, especially with the French players communicating with other players, it would be great. But some players don't have the best English, maybe. They're more comfortable speaking in their own language and with their own communities that have been formed since set 1. So that's the biggest issue with the prep, and EU continue to break those barriers is going to be the fact that it's very segmented because of the national leagues and languages and culture and the countries themselves.
Interesting. Okay, so you're wearing 2 hats. I want to take your EMEA hat off and put your BR hat on for a second. We can change the graphics so we can get the BR players on screen. So talk to us a little bit about these storylines. Who are the kind of favorites here? Who's just happy to be here?
I will go more into narratives more than gameplay itself. I wasn't able to watch the entirety of the Brazilian season for TFT for this set. I watched some of the VODs, but again, it's hard to just get perfect information from that. To the narrative, Slooper, of course, I think many TFT fans will know him. He was 3rd in set 3, the first ever championship. And this was a really big boost in Brazil to get people actually interested in competitive TFT, understanding that this exists, that you can make a living out of this if you're good enough. And it really boosted, I think, a lot of the Brazilian scene and Brazilian players to actually start competing at a higher level and take it more seriously. Because it was a big surprise, I think, for Slooper himself. He had never really competed in like high-level esports until that moment. And after that, he got a lot of support. He grew a lot as a streamer and content creator. He became a dad very shortly after, 4 days after winning that or getting 3rd in that World Championship. So I think his story is very interesting. He took a bit of a break, set 4 and 5, came back, set 6 at the start of this year, trying to take it more seriously and I'm not going to say it's his last chance to do something with his career, but obviously he has a family now. He has to balance that with competing full time. And he still managed to make it now. In set 6, he got 4th in the regionals and lost in the LCQ when Lucas went forward. But now finally made it in 2nd place in the Brazil regionals. Is a player that hasn't been no-lifing the game 24/7 the entire set because he has to balance being a dad as well. But he kind of knew when to start playing more with the qualifiers, kind of a more result-oriented goals and just grinding games nonstop. And then the last month, he has been prepping very hard and trying his best. And I think he has a lot of experience on his side. And overall, I think we'll do well. But I think VCLF is a player that I definitely watch out for the most from Brazil. I think the numbers, make it pretty clear that he's probably the best player in Brazil right now. He did very well. He won this regional finals. He did very well in the last one. He made it to Worlds 2 times. He was 12th last year in Worlds, is I think a huge accomplishment for a first time. And overall, I think he seems to be the favorite to win it. But I think Slooper has that experience, and I think he's also just a very good player in terms of how long he's been playing TFT. Connor's a bit more of a surprise. I think he wasn't playing super seriously. Didn't have the best result until set 7. And now he did a pretty good job this set. BCLF told me that he thought the favorite to win Brazil regionals was Panda before day 6 started. So that says a lot as well. In theory, the best player thinks that this player is the best. It's maybe for a reason. He's prepped a lot with Lucas as well, Panda. So yeah, I expect good things from Brazil. I think BCLF especially. Also, I won't guarantee he'll be top 16, but I think he will do well and hopefully be able to. His main goal is just to do better than last year. So finish better than 12th and hopefully make it day 3.
Awesome. Okay, we're rapidly running out of time with you, and we haven't even started putting you on the record. So let's do that. Time to get your regional rankings, top to bottom.
I think China's on top. I think that's pretty clear. Don't really have to give reasons why. But then I think EMEA and Korea are going to be second in that tier 2. I think Korea, if I were to rank maybe only their top 2 players, for example, I think they would have the edge. But as a unit, I think I would put them comparable to EMEA. I think EMEA is very strong this year, to be honest, just from the level of play, from the level of prep, from how much more seriously they're taking it. So that would be at tier 2. Tier 3, I would have NA a little bit under. I think Soju's very good. I think he, the Tanner's saying, I think he has improved a lot. I saw the NA regionals as well. I think he played very well and had, just very good reads as well in the meta. But I'm not sure about everyone else from NA. I think lack of experience is a big thing. I think being on a big stage with the pressure that involves, I think is also a big thing. And that's something that NA is maybe missing a bit this year. So, and the fact that I don't like the NA format so much with MD qualifying from mid-set. I think, I'm not saying MD is bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's different qualifying on like this patch or qualifying very recently and having that pressure to do well and that high of like a lot of time. Whereas MD, I'm not sure exactly how he approached Worlds after qualifying so long ago. So I think that's a detriment, but I can be obviously surprised. I'll put Brazil under an A. I think they can do well, but I'm not entirely sure about Conda, but I think VCLF especially, I think he's going to have a good job. Similar to Coco from EMEA, I think they're both players that I won't guarantee they'll be top 16, but I think they have a very good chance of being consistent players and doing well in Worlds. And then Latam is also, I think, a bit split. I think Tech Summers in Western LCQ surprised everyone a lot. I think he was the favorite according to PieHat to win Latam, but it was more of a nerves and a pressure thing for him. So as long as he has it under control, like he did in Western LCQ, where he top 4 every single lobby and popped off with so many different comps, I think he can be the player to surprise from Latam as well. I think Kiki has very good mental as well and very good experience. He was there last year as well in Worlds. And Lifespan and Frizz, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's hard to say with how stacked the competition is. Not because they're a bad player, but I think just generally regions that haven't had the chance to, as a whole, elevate themselves, where it's just the whole region is behind. It's very hard for the top players to really have a big leeway in that case. Even if they are the best in Latam, I think Latam hasn't had the best chance to improve as a region with the servers they have and overall the competition. So that's the biggest detriment, I think, to them. And I'm missing OC, which I think, again, I don't know too much about them. I might be surprised, but I would rank them, I think, a little bit under Latam. And then Japan, I think Tidal can do very well, but Japan has a really big problem with their qualifiers. I think Riot hasn't given it the right support. And overall, it's not for sure they're sending the best player. I think Tidal maybe is the best player in Japan, that's sure. But the way Holi qualified, it's just a really low sample size kind of format. And it was like a month ago as well. So I just think that's more a problem with the format than the players. But I'll rank Japan last, in my opinion.
Okay. Now you got to rate both EMEA and Brazil separately, 1 to 10 relative to the
Brazil's going to kill me.
best case scenario for players sent.
EMEA, I think, is a 9. I'd be honest. I think we had the 2 top ladder performances from Basic and Lelouch, tournaments as well. Lelouch qualified to regional finals every way possible. GSC points, ladder, snapshots on both sets. So I think it's going to be a 9 for EMEA. And for Brazil, I'm going to go ahead and say I don't have the amount of knowledge that I would need to make this call. But in terms of their best players, I would say like a 7.5. I think there are players that, like Lucas is very good, but he just didn't do as well this set, or hasn't, just wasn't the right set for him, for example. I think Taji was quite good in LCQ. I think he barely didn't make it, to be honest. And from what I saw in Brazil VODs, I think he was also quite good. So I'd say like a 7.5, 8 for Brazil in terms of their best players.
Okay. This is great. So we've been doing kind of one thing good, one thing bad about each region. Quite frankly, we don't have enough time to go through that thoroughly for both Europe and Brazil. But what are things that jumped out at you kind of in your review of the gameplay of the regions, good or negative for either EMEA or Brazil?
I think for EMEA, just very good execution, not really. I think there's sometimes very good players that fall bait to certain game plans or certain lines that you shouldn't even be taking, in my opinion, in the tournament. Like, it's just too high risk. Example, I'm sorry, Salvi, but Salvi with Astro Beaver, for example, in LCQ. I think just those 2 first games, you're just putting too much on the line on that comp to do well, for example. And I think most EMEA players are very good at knowing what to go for, what the game plan should be, what the meta read should be, I think, and their execution overall as well. Yeah, I think overall, aside from China, I think EMEA is going to have very good execution and just very good creativity as well from some of the players like Basic and Double. They've been around for so long, they just know the in and out of TFT, and I think they perform at a very high level. And Brazil, I think they're very good at stabilizing at 8 and not greeting more than they should. For example, in a tournament that's going to matter so much in terms of not getting 7th and 8th, for example, I think Brazil's going to have going to do a very good job at that, because their regionals, there weren't that many greedy players, very high pressure lobbies overall. And I think Worlds will be kind of similar, where China will have to come down a little bit from how fast 9 they were playing in their regionals and in their region overall, in Korea as well. And they'll have to meet in the middle with other regions. And I think Brazil will find that to be a comfortable spot for them in terms of the meta.
That was great. Panda, that was impressive, man. You covered 2 regions. You did it succinctly. You did it eloquently. It was beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on. Any final words before we let you go?
No, just really excited to watch Worlds. Obviously, talking to all the players now, I'm so much more invested in not even just my region, but other regions as well, for better or for worse. So super pumped. Really happy you guys are doing this as well. I can work on my pick'ems from what I hear here. Very useful. And looking forward to the TFT growing a lot. I think we've heard some good news in the past month. And I think, now we know for sure it's definitely going up in I think, a very fast way in the next few years. So hopefully I'll be a part of the ride and looking forward to it.
Cool.
Love it. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
All right.
There goes Impetuous Panda. Here comes PieHat, a man who shouldn't need an introduction, but we're going to do one anyway. PieHat, first of all, how you doing today?
I was going to say excited, but now I'm a little annoyed because everyone just trying to throw stuff into Latam. I'm like, are they really certain of what they're talking about? I think they're just a little salty, especially the NA fans. I think they're just salty because they were saying, okay, Latam is the worst region, but they had their the little golden boy, Presti, and he couldn't make it to last championship. We nabbed the spot, so I think they're just salty.
Oh my God, PieHat coming in hot, and I love it. It's worth noting though that the kind of the seal of approval from China, which is maybe the best praise you can get in TFT. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to Tanner talking about, but he thinks quite highly of LATAM.
I mean, I think we have the potential. I think we have a really good players, and I think the 4 people that we are sending into the world were the 4 best people in the entire regionals. I think we just have the, how do I say this? The small region syndrome, where everyone just sees us and say, okay, they're not China, they're not NA, they're not Europe. Okay, they're bad. So I think we have that present going into Worlds, into every international competition. So I think I'm used to it by now, but I think it's time to shut some people up.
So I'm really excited to see you guys do that. I think a big part of the reason why some folks are so low on LATAM right now is because of the scrim results. It feels like people are saying that in the scrims specifically, and I haven't gotten a chance to watch them, so I don't know how fair this is, but in the scrims, it has felt like there's been a fairly wide gap between LATAM and some of the other even minor regions in terms of performance. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that's a fair conclusion to reach based on the scrims?
I mean, I think it's understandable that you look at the scrims and say, okay, they are going 88 every time, and okay. But I think I'm seeing it in the way how their story coming into Worlds, because instead of other regions, I think our regionals were like a month ago, because they qualified in October, I believe. And there's been like a month and a patch and a half coming through. So they didn't have the time to actually play. In the patch that was going to be in the World, they weren't really able to prepare and compete in that time. So it's like, okay, we have an entire month to just study, learn the theory and all that. And we're applying this finally into these lobbies with people that are actually trying to compete. Because if they're going to try in Blossom ladder, NA ladder, or in Europe ladder, where no one of the really high skill people are still playing, because in NA and Europe they were playing scrims. No one was really try hard in ladder, so they weren't really able to try there. They weren't really able to test in LATAM because no one was really playing anymore. So only now, when the scrims happened last week, okay, they were saying, okay, we learned everything. We're watching every region, so now we're trying to apply this, try to see limits, what works, what doesn't work, and try to work out as a group how to improve. I think they are doing this very group-like mentality, like OC did in the past. Remember when set 4, set 5, I think it was Asian set 5, and I don't remember the guy from Rasa from set 4, when they weren't really like, okay, aren't really the best players, but they had a really good practice group and they had a community of people trying to grow and everyone invest into these 2 or 3 players. This is the thing that we're doing right now. So I think it's a misconception of just watching the scrims, okay, saying, okay, they're bad. It's not like that.
It sounds like the LATAM players are all pretty good friends. Would you say that's true? And have they been like friends for a while?
I think it's not to say they're friends. It's more to say that they are Argentinian. The 4 reps are from the same country. It's like saying last set Europe only had 4 people from France.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to practice together. They were obviously going to be close. It's the same happening here. So being on the same country, on the same group, and all that I think it's like making them stronger in a way. So you could say they're friends. I just think they're from the same country, and Argentina usually has this desire to just push and shut people up. It's their thing. It's a little annoying, but it's their thing.
Oh, okay. I guess I was wondering, have they been practicing together like before, just like since they qualified to Worlds in 7.5?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Have these guys been practicing together like just recently, or have they been practicing like before they qualified to Worlds in 7.5?
A couple of them were. I think Tex was mostly playing with Altenawe, the guy from Latam that went 6th on last Worlds. I think Lysbat was being coached by Cottontail from one of your NA players. And Kiki usually was working with a couple of Brazilian people. They were all doing scrims and all that. So they sometimes came and talked, but they weren't really close until now.
Makes sense. So let's talk about those players a little bit more in detail. So we've got 4 players. They're all from Argentina. I think you're on the record as saying that most people felt like these were the best 4 players in the region going into the event. So you qualified the like super team, essentially. First of all, is that true? And second of all, who among them is the favorite? Or are they all relatively even playing field?
I think there was a big gap between those 4 and the rest of the competition. I think it was mostly clear how they were playing and say, okay, they have the advantage. And it's just a matter of, okay, who plays the worst at finals, and that person is the one who's going to go to the last chance qualifier. In this case, it was Tex. But I think there was this big gap between those 4 and the rest. So I think we're happy enough with how they perform during playoffs. But other than that, I think it's a little gonna be a flip-floppy with that. But even though Tex went into the last chance qualifier, I think he was probably the favorite. For me, he still is the favorite. I think he was the player who improved the most, and his story is really amazing because he was the ladder warrior, the guy who played only ladder. He was really good at ladder, but never really showed up in tourneys. He didn't have the tourney mentality until the end of the last set, and he turned everything around. He made a 180, and now he just stomps in tourneys. So I think that's a really good storyline for him. And the fact that he played in LCQ and he didn't panic, and in the last game he actually didn't get to him, makes him a really interesting favorite, and I think people should not overlook him.
So if he's your favorite, do you want to make a prediction? How far do you think he goes? What place does he finish?
Oh, I think he goes to the finals.
Oh, baby.
I'm gonna caster curse him, right? I'm gonna cast on my end, so I'm gonna caster curse him, and if he goes 32, well, you can blame me. Everyone on Twitter can add me. I don't really care. I have to put my hands dirty, so you know.
I love it. Job. All right. Well, while we're getting you on the record, let's just keep it rolling. So I'm sure you've seen this. We've had everybody rank the regions, so we're gonna have you do that now. Start to finish the 8 regions. What's your order?
I think there's no surprises there. There's a big gap in China. I think they're clearly top 1. After that, I think Europe is sending their best team, so I think ever. So they are probably the second best in that regard. And after that, there's a big gap. I think there is a conversation. I think there's a tie between NA, Korea, Brazil, and a little bit of Latam. I think therefore the 4 of them can be on the same group. They can be interchangeable. Have to position them. I would probably put Korea, and then Korea third, I want to say Latam 4th just to spice the NA fans, and then I'm going to put NA 5th and Brazil 6th. Actually, no, put Brazil 5th and NA 6th. Yeah, just to spite a couple of people.
Okay, so it's China, EMEA, Korea, LATAM,
Korea.
Brazil, NA,
and then
Austin, Japan.
Japan probably 7. I think title has impressed me a little more than Tamura, which I think is they're a better player from OC, so I would put Japan and then OC.
Okay. And then it sounds like you might be the only 10. I'm sure you've seen this where we're doing 1 to 10. Did you 10 being you sent the best players in your region, 1 being you sent basically the worst people you could have sent from the regional qualifiers. Does LATAM get a 10? Did you send your best?
Look, I was gonna be humble and I was gonna say 7 just for the fact that they haven't played on this patch. I was wondering, okay, 7 is okay. But Cutler said 7.5 on OC. I'm like, okay, I have to put it 7.6. So let's a little up.
But wait, to be clear, this isn't a 1 to 10
No,
relative to the rest of it. It's
I know.
relative to your region. Did you send your best?
I think it's an 8.
So that means that you think that there are other better players that if they had qualified over some of the people that did, that you would have had a better chance at Worlds.
I think we had like 3 or 4 more people that didn't perform at regionals, and they probably could have done better and made the finals more interesting, because having a big gap just means it obviously means that you're good, but it also means that the rest of the region couldn't really step up. So if those 2 or 3 or 4 people I have right now thinking the nerfs didn't beat them, or they were actually able to perform, that was gonna exponentially improve the entire region. So for that, I have to put like 8 for it. And I think that's a good assessment, I would say.
Okay.
What are, the things that you think your region does better than other regions? And then after that, something worse than other regions.
The best, I think, I'm gonna repeat what I just said a bit ago, which is how they are being such a right now. At least the reps, they're being so close together. They're actually helping each other in those weaknesses. I think they're doing this mob mentality better than every other region. I think that's why they are gonna. That's why they think they're the best. And the thing they do worst, I think it's probably the same than the half of the regions, which is a lot of them sometimes commit too early to a couple routes. And I think that's going to happen for like 20 of the 32 players coming to Worlds, in which they have a couple plans, and other than that, if they don't do that plan, if they're not in the 100% focus, they will probably stay in that path. But I think, as I said, that's what happens in NA, in other regions. So I think that's a normal problem to have. And I think they just need to fix on the nerves and just be a little calmer when they do these decisions, so they don't just laser focus on one thing and just don't do well.
Awesome. Well, PieHat, it's been a true joy from start to finish. You came in guns blazing and you kept them firing the whole way. It was super fun. Do you have any last thoughts before we let you go?
Well, I'm really thankful for you all to do this. I think we, as every other region, needs this type of recognition, because if not, we're just going to be left behind, even though the population isn't that big and all that, but having other regions notice us, Japan, OC, etc., it's good for us and makes the scene grow more. And I think that's really meaningful. I'm just thankful for you guys for inviting me and doing this type of interview podcast, or however it's called.
Thankful that you could join. Honestly, it has been such a joy. This is the first time we've had a more international focus for Don't Talk If You Don't Know, and I wish I had infinite time, because I would say let's just do this all the time, but I know I want to focus more on international stuff in the sets to come. I think there's some really cool stories to tell, some players that get overlooked, and so I'm glad you were kind of part of the inaugural, and we'll have you back again to do it another time for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. All right. Take care, PieHat. Good luck this weekend. Okay. One person left to go as PieHat leaves. Yubin takes the stage. Or would you prefer to go by Alex? I could go either way here.
Oh no, Yubin's fine. Yubin's fine.
Okay, awesome. Well, Yubin, thanks so much for joining us. How you doing tonight?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's kind of early here in Korea, but yeah, it's pretty fun to listen to all the previous guests.
For sure. So let's just start from the beginning for yourself. So kind of who are you? How are you connected to Korean TFT?
Well, I was born in Korea and I live in Korea right now, but I lived in Canada for like a super long time. So I guess in that sense, I'm like both KR and NA. But yeah, mostly I play on the Korean server and I guess occasionally on NA. Yeah, I'm just a casual TFT enjoyer.
But how are you connected into kind of the competitive scene in Korea? Is it just as a fan, or are you plugged in some other way?
I actually can't compete in KR tourneys, but I guess my only like real connection is I just hover around the high elo ladder across multiple sets. So yeah, I get to know the top players pretty well, I would say.
Yubin, I feel like I competed against you in a NA tournament somewhat recently. Is that true?
I played set 6, I think. I played in one set.
Okay.
Yeah, I competed in one set. That's about it.
I see.
He farmed you, Aesah. You just forgot.
No, I don't think so, but yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I was like, I don't think he did that well, but it's all good.
Guy, co-host of the Casual Flame. You love to see it. Okay, so just taking a step back from TFT for a second. I worked in esports for over a decade now. Anyone that's been around esports, whether it's working, fandom, even if you don't really know anything about esports, you kind of know Korea is like Mecca for esports, right? It's the origin story of the industry in a lot of ways, and across games in which Korea competes at a serious level, oftentimes it's just the best region in the world, period, right? And it was on fine display at the World Championship more recently, where you could say all you want about population size and server size, and listen, I was at group stages in New York, and I have two conclusions. One, the gap is bigger than ever. The West sucks at League of Legends. And two, Korea was quite a bit better than China, right? Consistently across the board. It was just the better region at this year's World. So why do you think that's not? Do you think that it is not true to say the same thing about Korea and TFT? Or if not, why not? Right? Because my perception is that Korea as a region, yes, it's a major region, but it's never felt particularly strong to me relative to the other major regions. So I'm trying to figure out if you have that same perception.
Okay, so for TFT, I'm not sure why, but I think a lot of the people in the West do have like a kind of like an iffy opinion when it comes to KR as a region as a whole. Like I look at top players from NA specifically when they watch or talk about KR, they say it's relatively weaker compared to like NA and EU. And I've been playing on KR ever since I started TFT in set 2. And I've also hovered around high elo on NA. So when I compare NA, I guess because that's the only region I actually have experience on outside of Korea. As a whole, I think across all the sets, I'm not sure what the reason is, but I think NA in general is a bit better than Korea. But when it comes to the top players, I think across all sets, I think Korea does actually have the better top players than a lot of the Western regions. Yeah, that's just my opinion. But
what is it that you think makes them better?
Pretty much like everything from micro and macro perspective. I think there are definitely things that the Korean region does lack. I think the most evident one is I think most people in the Korean server, I'm not sure why, but they tend to just only play for top 4. And so when people outside of Korea spectate the games that are being played in Korea, they make an assumption like, these early mid-game boards are kind of whack compared to the other regions. But if you pick out like the best players from Korea, I think objectively they play the game super well. They know what to do with the openers that they have, with the augments and items that they have, and they play like a smooth transition early, mid, and late game. And I think the one thing that Korea does super well compared to NA is I think their APM and positioning is a lot more cleaner than the Western regions. Again, that's just my opinion.
I'm curious. You said like you keep saying like the best players in Korea. Out of these 5 world reps, like are these guys all in that group of the best players?
I was gonna talk about this later, but so there was like a power ranking thing I think last set where I think like 50, 60 top challenger players from KR voted, and I put Bobe, Dudu, and My Paradise in that order for my top 3. And so it's unfortunate that this set, actually Bobe just started playing a couple weeks ago. He's ranked 2 right now on the KR ladder, but he hasn't really been playing this set. Dudu is not playing this set either. And so I think out of the top ranking on my list, Mappa is pretty much the only one. But if you look at the regional lobby for Korea this set, the final 8 in the final lobby, I think 7 out of the 8 were super strong, just objectively in the Korean region. And I was actually kind of surprised how stacked the regional lobby in Korea was. Yeah. So in that sense, I guess Korea as a region this set, going into Worlds is pretty good, in my opinion.
So it sounds like maybe some of your highest skill ceiling players were not very competitive set 7, so they were kind of off the table regardless. Of the people who were kind of sweating set 7, taking it seriously, you sent essentially your best.
Yeah.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit more about, sounds like, I heard you call My Paw, is that what we're calling My Paradise?
Oh, in Korean, people just call him Mappa. So
Mappa.
That's just, Mappa.
Okay, gotcha. And is he's the favorite from this group?
I think he's definitely the name that people outside of Korea know the best. I think competitively he kind of popped off in set 4, but after that he's been like relatively quiet. But even looking past that, I think most of the casual players and top players in Korea do put him in their top 5 list for pretty much every set. I think he's, in my opinion, one of the best players in Korea, and yeah, I'm just super excited that he gets to play in the world stage this set.
Who are the other favorites from this list?
Pintum is I would say starting set 6 and 7 is when he started getting super. He popped off on ladder, I think, starting set 6, and ever since then he's been pretty consistent on ladder and in tournament. Actually, I think he's played in, I could be mistaken, but he played in 2 regionals prior to set 7, and he made it to the final day, I think, both times. I could be wrong, but I think going into Worlds, just looking at the most recent sets, I think Pintum is my favorite actually. Like he just stands out even in solo queue, because I played against these guys like hundreds of times across like multiple sets, but I think looking at the most recent sets, Pintum is definitely on top of my radar. And Tongur is another super interesting player. I think in Korea, he has like 2 sides to him. I think most people in Korea kind of look at him like as a meme streamer, because like 90 to 95% of the content that he produces is pretty much like for entertainment purpose. His streams are pretty much where he invites like top players that one trick certain comps and certain metas, and he would just get coaching on stream by them. And he also does this thing called relay coaching, where he would get 3 coaches to come on his stream, and so one coach would coach him through stage 2, and then someone would take over stage 3, and then stage 4, and then it would go on like a relay going into the next game as well. And so it's really funny. I would literally call him k3soju.
Wait, that sounds so fun. I want to
That
do
sounds
that.
so fun.
He makes it super entertaining, but unfortunately everything is done in Korean, so you don't understand what he's saying or what they're saying. It's kind of not fun to watch, but if you do, it's super fun. I would say he's definitely one of the streamers I watch the most on Twitch. Yeah.
Okay, Aesah, I'm
Yeah.
down for you to steal this set.
I'm actually down to
This
do
is a great
this.
idea.
I'm curious. So we got some ideas about like how hard the other regions are prepping. Do you know how hard these guys are like prepping for Worlds?
Like I talked to them individually, or I talked to Bappa, Chongdongger, and Pintum like recently. I don't really know about specific prep work other than scrims, but I do see Bappa streaming on like some Discord channels that I'm in with them, and yeah, I think he's doing some like, private, or he's doing his private prep work with some of the other Korean players. But the other players, I don't really know what they're doing personally. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, we're running out of time, and we have to get your ranking list. So let's do it from the top through the bottom, top 8 regions in order.
Okay, I think number 1 is definitely China. I actually talked to Pintum about this. Pintum told me that he thinks going into Worlds, it's literally China versus like China on their own versus Europe, NA, and Korea. And then, yeah, he didn't really talk about the other regions, but that's what he thinks it is going into Worlds. Number 2, I would probably say EU. I think the EU reps are really strong this year, and Mappa also mentioned that there's 2 players that he's looking out for in Worlds. From most recent scrim results, I think he picked Hwanmi and KC Double, and he rates EU like pretty high as well. So I would probably put EU second, and then third I would put KR. I think it's not like the strongest roster, but I think it's relatively strong for the players that were competing the set. And fourth, I would probably put. I mean, it has to be NA, right? I think
Doesn't
NA
have to be.
I mean, I think NA as a region is really strong. I don't know too much about k3soju and Andy, but I think Rain and Soju are looking really good right now. I think if NA is going to do well at Worlds, those 2 are probably going to be the 2 players to look out for. And then I'm going to be honest, I don't really know too much about the other regions, and I don't really watch their games, but I would probably put Brazil, Japan, OCE, and LATAM in that order. Yeah.
Okay. How about the strength of your roster, the Korean roster at World scale 1 to 10, 10 being your best?
Like I said, I think the roster is pretty good, but I would say 8.5. Okay. Maybe 9. I think when people look at the roster, they only look at Pintum and My Paradise, which is, I think, it's kind of warranted. To be honest, I don't really know too much about Good Day and Newt either. All I know about Newt is he was a professional league player. He played in Griffin and LGD, I think, and then played in some academy teams, and now he's playing TFT. And then Good Day. He only caught my eye in set 7. I remember when Strong Sexy was rank 1 in KR for like a month straight. It was basically him, me, and Sangyup, and like a couple others just trying to take rank 1 away from him. And so I think right now he has 2 accounts that are both 1500 LP and higher. He's just playing a lot of solo queue. That's all I know about him. I don't really know about their previous competitive background too well. But yeah.
Okay. So we're out of time. If you have really quick thoughts on something that KR does particularly well or poorly, then fire away. But we got to do it fast so we can wrap the show up.
Oh, I already mentioned it. I think KR as a region, something that we do lack in is like Mappa also mentioned. I think he says the biggest problem with the Korean region is the high challenger players. A lot of them just play for like 3rd, 4th, 5th. Whereas he thinks like a lot of the good players like to play for like 1st or 8th, and something that we do well at, I would say just the micro part of TFT, like APM positioning, and I think the top players in KR do excel at just everything. But yeah, as a region as a whole, those are the pros and cons, I think.
That was awesome. You were
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much, Yubin. Any final thoughts, shout outs?
Shout out to you guys for hosting. This is super informative, honestly. And shout out to all the players that are competing in Worlds. And I know this has nothing to do with Worlds, but if you're voting for the TFT Summit, make sure to vote for Pokigam and Voices.
Nice. I like it. The first voting shout out. You get votes per day, everyone. TFT Summit. Go register on start.gg and support your favorite team. Thanks so much, Yubin. Have a great
thanks for having
morning,
me.
I guess. Super early. Thanks for joining early.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. See ya.
All right. Wow, that was fun. That was actually like that time flew. That was way smoother than I could have possibly thought. By the way, shout out to Gangly in the background for doing all this production on the fly. He has been crushing it. It was so seamless. Thank you so much, Gangly. Give Gangly some love in the chat. Aesah, I'm curious. You've now listened to all the experts from all the regions. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, going into this, I was like feeling a lot better about NA, but it seems like a lot of the other regions, compared like in the scrims and everything, it's feeling like NA is not as good as I thought.
I'm surprised that you were high on NA coming in. Kyvix played a pretty narrow line that should have been more contested, and high rolled it pretty hard. And I think he was coming in very low on himself for a reason going into regionals. And I think it's hard to make up that gap coming into Worlds. It's not that much time. I think AMD, I don't know exactly what's going on in IRL for him, but it's clear he was not at all in form for regionals, and it's hard for me to envision him getting there by Worlds. So it really feels like we're sending like two really solid. I mean, like obviously anything can happen. It's TFT. Kyvix won in a regionals, but like I don't have very high hopes for those two players. And
yeah,
then,
I mean, I believe in Kyvix. Ever since I started competing in Set 6, I think I've listened to like several of his winner interviews, which they have after like each day. Like he might have been the top scorer in like day 1 or something. But yeah, he's he knows what he's got the instincts, even if he's not like in form.
He does for sure. I think that overall, outside of Soju, I feel like we lack cleanliness in our play. There's inconsistency among all those players. I think really highly of Rain. By the way, I completely agree with what you've been said, that like if NA does well this Worlds, it's going to be through Rain and Soju. And I think Rain has a very solid shot of being super competitive at this Worlds. First Worlds, relatively new, so how will the nerves impact her? Seems like she doesn't have tournament jitters. She seems to pop off literally every tournament in which she plays. So.
Yeah, I actually think that's one of like Rain's biggest advantage.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm not feeling great about NA. Soju's not feeling great about NA. You can see on your screen the scoreboard of the different regional rankings from all of our regional experts. Soju gives us NA of 4, and everyone else is like a 6 or 7 higher. Basically, actually, everyone's a 7 or higher. So, wow, that's not good. What jumped out at you from the rankings part of this? Like, were any of the rankings particularly interesting to you?
You mean like each region ranking themselves?
Yeah. Or ranking everybody.
I mean, the most interesting one's gotta be like PieHat, like coming here defending his region. You know, like almost everyone, or did everyone? Almost everyone like ranked LATAM last, and you know, he's got a lot of confidence in his team, and I like that.
Yeah, I agree. I also thought Tanner's ranking was fascinating. We could do a whole podcast just on the way, and I would love to have just picked the brain of like who was in the room for these regional studies from CN regionals, and what did they think, and who were the players that stuck out, and who were the players that stuck out negatively. But I mean, man, he's got Korea at 2, which is higher than anybody else ranked them, right? Everybody else basically had, you know, he's the only person who had Korea at 2. Everybody else had EMEA, and then one person had NA at 2. Right, he had LATAM at 4th, right, with NA down at 6, so he thinks really lowly of NA relative to the rest of the field. NA for most people was 3 or 4, so putting them way low.
Tanner had NA at 4.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. It's PieHat that in. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. But he had LATAM high. He had LATAM at 5th relative to the rest of the people.
Yeah.
Where PieHat, okay, there's some like homer bias that can go into your ranking. Totally get it. Relative to the people, I'm not even saying PieHat's wrong. I'm just saying let's be honest. If we think anybody is doing proper evaluation of all these regions going in, That's a really uphill battle. Probably the most qualified to do it is Frodan, so it's a little bit of a bummer that he wasn't able to be here for it. So we were originally going to do ours. I don't feel strongly about that. We've got to wrap up the show in the next few minutes.
All right,
so
sounds good.
Do you feel strongly? Would you like to do your ranking?
No, it's all good.
Okay, all right. I feel great about that. Well, look, let's get closing thoughts from you on this show and closing thoughts heading into Worlds.
I think it's super awesome because last year I watched all of Worlds. But like I really only knew like the NA players. Like I didn't even know like I knew like out of China. I think I only knew Huami. Like I didn't even know like Lilu for the minor regions I like didn't know anyone like at all. I think maybe some of the EU players I can't remember, but it's really cool because going into this year I'm gonna recognize every name of every player and like know what region they're playing from, and how the region is doing as a whole. That's really cool.
Yeah, +1 for me. This is the closest I've gotten to kind of region-specific opinions on the strength and weaknesses of their players going in, who are the favorites, who are the underdogs, who's just kind of happy to be here. It was super fun. Hot off the presses, by the way, Amdy in the chat says, I'm winning Worlds, NA 8th, me 1.
All right, he actually said,
so,
I'm winning Worlds, GG.
Yeah, I really
Very
hope
important
so.
detail.
I think everyone's takeaway from AMD at mid-set was this could have gone a lot worse, right? Mid-set, sitting to play for mid-set, it's a total wild card who happens to win the tournament. We could have sent someone that's pretty weak. No one thinks AMD is weak when in form. I think AMD is quite good at TFT. I want to see you in form, AMD. But if you show up, no doubt in my mind, you are capable of competing. Bring home that title, baby.
Yeah, I think of AMD just like plays TFT, uses his intuition, makes the best decisions. Instead of just like trying to force these comps, I think he'll do well.
Yeah, the only time I can ever remember significantly objecting to something AMD was doing is when he was 8 Dragonmancer on level 9 passing Aoshins when this Aoshin unit was completely illegal with a BT and a JG and a Dragonmancer emblem. So AMD, let's buy that Aoshin next time, but otherwise I'm down for you to keep doing your thing. Okay, that's it for the show. Brief announcements. 1, there are pick'ems now. Go do them. It's super fun. Let's support it. Getting engaged as a community around this stuff shows Riot how much TFT esports have potential. So doing pick'ems I actually think is low-key good for the scene in addition to being fun. They're doing drops for the Dragonlands Championship, as this graphic tells you. So watch the Dragonlands Championship. There's a lot of fun things going to be happening. Hopefully after this, you're going in with some rooting interest aside from just rooting for your home region, because I think there's a ton of really fun storylines. We only got to scratch the surface today, but I know I'm more excited for Worlds just having a chance to scratch the surface. Gangly, thank you again for the production behind the scenes. Truly, it was awesome. Really appreciate your time and effort. Aesah, thank you for pinch hitting for Dan. You were awesome. It was so fun to have you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This has been another episode of Don't Talk If You Don't Know. See you in Twitch chat for the Dragonlands Championship starting on Friday.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bryce. And yeah, I'll be streaming and doing that relay coaching sometime in the near future.
Whoa. All right. Bye, everybody.
See ya.